Quorum and 6 p.m. Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. I am calling to order this special meeting of the Pacific Grove Unified School District Board of Education. Thank you all for joining us this evening. It is Thursday, July 9th. As we begin this meeting, it is important to pay respect to and acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Ohlone, Costanoan, and Esalen people, and additionally pay respect to elders, both past and present. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the roll call. Dr. Adamson.
Absolutely. President McNary.
Here.
Clerk Shamas.
Here.
And Trustee Wax.
Here.
Thank you. With 3 trustees present, we do have a quorum. And although we're not going to be taking any action this evening, it does give us an opportunity for 3 of us to be present in the same room, given the rules regarding open meetings and the Brown Act. Last thing we need to do before we move on to our substantive item is adopt the agenda. Before we look to the board for discussion, we'll go out to public comment to see if anyone wishes to make a comment on the agenda that's proposed with 1 item. Thank you, Director Algaze. I'll look to trustees for any discussion on the proposed agenda. If not, would one of you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made by Trustee Wax and seconded by Clerk Shamos. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Okay, thank you all. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Trustee Wax, would you lead us in the pledge this evening, please?
Of the United States of America. And to the republic.
Thank you. With that, this evening on our open session agenda, we have 1 item, and that is our candidate information form for the upcoming November 2026 election cycle. And I will turn it over to Dr. Adamson now for her presentation.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, President McNary. I'm going to ask Director Algazi. Oh, there they are. There are our slides. Well, I'd like to start by just saying thank you. Welcome to all of you for being here this evening. Thank you so much. It's so great to see so many interested people wanting to find out a little bit more about what it is, what it means to run for the board. I will say I was just so excited and encouraged when we sent out our communication and already had 4 individuals filling out the candidate interest form, and some of you are here this evening. Some of you, there's they're more than just the 4, so that's really, really exciting. And there's no better opportunity, I think, for you to learn more about that than be here along with some of our current trustees who you'll be hearing from a little tonight, and have the opportunity to ask some questions as well. And so I think just first I'd like to just review the agenda, and that's on the next slide, just to get a sense of what we'll be covering tonight. We're going to start in just a bit with some welcome and introductions, and I'm hoping that all of you here this evening will be comfortable in just sharing a little bit about who you are and what has brought you here this evening. We're going to talk a little about eligibility, sort of just understanding the trustee areas and what that process involves, the nomination process, the role of a trustee, and just some basic operational realities. Time commitments, meetings, expectations, that kind of thing. You will then get a chance to hear from each of our trustees a little bit of their perspective and sort of real world experience. And then really we're going to have that opportunity for community dialogue. I'll be saying, maybe 10 minutes or so is part of the presentation, because we really want that opportunity for you to be able to hear from trustees, but also that chance, to get some questions answered for this evening. And we are scheduled from now 6 o'clock till 7:30. So we've got a good 90 minutes for the evening. And we'll close with some basic resources. Everything that's on the slides today, we will go ahead and send those out to you and make that available on the website as well. A lot of links and resources that we want you to walk away with this evening, so you have all of the information that you need. All right, so with that, we're going to go straight into welcome and introductions. I'll start with myself. I am Linda Adamson, your very proud superintendent. And I just, anytime I get to be in front of a group of people, I want to shout it from the mountaintops on how privileged I feel to be superintendent of this incredible district. Mr. Rivera just asked me a few minutes before, as we were waiting to begin, what are some of the big surprises that you have found in your time here as superintendent? And there's so many, but I think the one that stands out to me for sure is what makes this community so unique. It's that small community feel, but there is just something about a closeness and a level of involvement and engagement that our families have. There's a sense of so much pride. As a small district, that is something that I think is very unique and has given me incredible perspective. And I think it's something that makes us also proud to be a part of. With that, I would like to just ask each of our trustees to do a brief introduction and just share your name and just anything else you want this group to know about you. So, Trustee Wax.
Hi, my name is Mike Wax. I am a trustee for, I don't know what area. I'm around Candy Cane Lane. I was gonna say two, no joke. I was leaning to. It's my first time serving for PGUSD. And I mean, I could go on more in depth about it, but I do find it highly rewarding, and sometimes intense. I mean, it's the whole gamut of emotions, but I really do feel privileged to be able to make an impact for like my kids and my kids' friends and kids I don't know in a very localized atmosphere. And it's very enjoyable, even the parts that are not of innate interest to me, like the things that Beth is really great at, like the process and the bylaws. Even that, I found, if not excitement, like interest and like so. I don't know what has brought you all here tonight, but I'm thankful. There's actually many more people than I thought, so that's heartening. And then, Elise, are there any people online? Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're all here, so that's great. And thanks for being here.
Thanks. And thanks for Dr. Adamson, for Clerk Shamas for suggesting we host this, and Dr. Adamson and your staff for putting it together. It's a really great resource. My name is Jennifer McNary. This is my 4th year serving on the school board in Trustee Area 5, which is part of Del Monte Park, where I live, in a big swath of Pebble Beach, which is also PGUSD jurisdiction. I came to the board as a parent of a kindergartner who was curious about how the public school system worked, more so like how to advocate and actually get things done, because I didn't know. And I wasn't a product of public schools as a child. So I was really trying to find out what to do to be able to serve my own kids, but then to be able to talk to other parents and say like, oh, you actually don't go straight to the principal. You start with the teacher and then you move on to the next person. But as a parent, we're busy and we have a lot going on and we don't necessarily have the time or energy to do that. So that's what really got me interested. So I sat through a lot of school board meetings. My oldest is now a freshman at PG. So my kids have come up all the way through from Parents' Place, fell in love with the community, and just wanted to serve in a way that was meaningful in this excellent district. And it's also the joy of being around children all the time. That's kind of our own little thing. That's the give back, is like the meaningful connections and the people we get to meet, and just seeing change and progress. So long story short. Trustee Shamas.
Hi, my name is Beth Shamas. I go by Beth, but Elizabeth is my official name. And I was on the school board in 98 to 2009. So I served 3 terms then. And I really went off the board because I moved to Monterey for a short time. And, you got to live in the place that you represent. So when I retired, I started coming back to board meetings to catch up on what's going on. And so then it happened that someone in my area said, I'm not going to run again. Are you interested? I said, yes, I'm interested. And because we had just broken up to those little areas, nobody ran against me. And then you're not even elected. You're considered appointed, even though I went through the process of filling out my candidate, statement, everything. But in the end, when the deadline passed and no one else comes against you, then the county doesn't even bother to put your name in the
Guide.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
you're invisible.
Didn't you have a candidate statement on the guy?
No.
Your candidate statement does not get printed if there is no
Oh,
election.
okay.
Yeah.
What area are you? Sorry.
Four, yes. I live on Sunset Drive, right across from the stadium. And by the way, like the district will pay your candidate statement. And that's something I'm very proud of that I put in last time, because just as a way to encourage people and to make sure that that's not a barrier for some people, to run. So, I have a lot of experience based on my 12 years in the past. And like Mike says, I do enjoy some of the minutia. But that's just me. I've always loved being on the school board, and I always look forward to dealing with any of the problems that we have to deal with. And, it's rewarding for me, just the business of doing it. So I do have grandchildren in the district. And, so I do keep up, but I just want to also say to people like who might be interested in running that don't have children, that's okay too. You don't have, some people feel like they have to be a parent to run for the school board, but you don't. You can be a very competent school board member without having an actual child in the district or even a grandchild. But just to throw that out there. So I don't, because I do think that a lot of times people feel like, oh no, you got to have a kid in the district if you're going to run. So anyway, I'm happy to be here, and I am pleased to see this amount of interest. And once you break it up into the little districts, I'm still hoping that maybe at some point we can revert back to at large, but who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, all three. And again, just thank you so much for being here this evening. I think it's how valuable for those interested in hearing directly from you directly. I would like to just open it up as an opportunity for anyone here tonight to, if you are comfortable just sharing a little bit about yourself, just your name, and your connection, with the district. If you're not comfortable, that's perfectly fine as well. But because we are recording, I'm going to ask you to come up to the podium and just, use the microphone. That way, you can be heard clearly. So if you are interested, I'm going to just invite you up, just a few quick things about yourself. If you want to come on up.
It's good practice if you're interested in serving on the board is getting used to the sound of your voice on the microphone.
My name is Ryan Donlin. I have a terrible voice on the microphone. I hate the sound of it. I have, thank you, 2 kids in the district, a 5th grader and a 6th grader starting at the middle school. I moved here about 12 years ago, so have some familiarity with the issues that the district is facing. And I live in District 5. So thank you for your service in District 5. That's about it. So hello, neighbors.
Hello. My name is Nicole Michelle Rivera. I moved to PG, I think in like 2019. I have 2 kids in schools here. No, I have one that just graduated last year from PG High School, and one that's about to start kindergarten, so pretty far apart. I live in Area 3, and I'm sort of just prospectively seeing how I feel about running. But I've been pretty involved and interested in what the school board has been doing over the past several years. So we'll see.
My name is Frank Rivera, and I have two kids in the district, and I've been through the district. I work in higher ed, so education's been my life and my passion. I guess that's it.
Right? Right. So, yep. Thank you.
Chuck Brinker, relatively new. I say relatively because it's been a few years. We moved here in 2023. Three kids, all very young, hence the interest in school board, and have gotten to know some of the folks here. And yeah, I think it's very unique, and I think you mentioned it, but it's very unique to be in a place where you can actually see your impact on what you do on a board, and that is pretty rare. I've served on a couple corporate boards, but this is much different. So excited to hear more. Thanks. Oh, Area 1. Yeah.
Popular area.
Hello, Stephen Bennett. So Area 1, because we have claimed that corner, apparently. Yeah, retired out of the Navy. Went to University of Houston, studied anthropology and math. Did a lot of private boards, some public boards while I was in the service. Got back into wholly in the public purview back in Texas, and another recent arrival here, just a couple of years, working on three. Yeah, I got a couple of kids in the school district, and just can't say enough about how much it means to be in public service whenever you are actually engaged. I love the board setup. I love all the different perspectives from the public and everyone else as well. Yeah, I don't really know. Currently work with the Weather Service. Thank you for all the support, everybody out there. Was kind of waiting on some of the chaos to subside a bit before trying to find out where to jump in, possibly here in Pacific Grove. And then the email came. So whoever that was behind that, thank you. That was the kick. So that's what I'm doing here.
5 years from Houston too.
Oh, yeah. Another survivor.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And there's no one online still, Director Algazi, is that correct? Yes. Okay. Thank you all for sharing a little bit about yourselves. It's wonderful. All right. Well, I think going on to the next slide, I feel very fortunate to have gotten to know, I think one thing about, in my position, working together with the board, we work closely together. There's a lot of time that we spend together. And you'll hear a little bit about that tonight. But I mean, one of the reasons you're seeing, this is not the regular format of a typical community forum. And one of those reasons is because we have 3 trustees. That means we have quorum and we have to abide by the Brown Act rules. And because our trustees are participating actively, for that reason, we had to post it as a regular meeting. So I think that's a little bit of what makes coming together and finding time to discuss things a little more challenging, and building that relationship, because everything that we do has to be structured when we do come together, as a team. But at the same time, we are able within those times to find a lot of time to get to know each other as well personally. And so it's also about finding time to have fun. And I feel very fortunate that I feel that every one of our 5 trustees that I've gotten to work with in my time as superintendent, not only are they unbelievably committed and dedicated, but they truly do, they have signed up for this work with the understanding of what it means to have a shared unity of purpose. And that's, what the slide talks a little bit about. Just that whole understanding of, as a board member, you're coming in, and yes, absolutely, when you're voted in, you are voted in by your constituents with your particular area. But when you sign up for a trustee and to be a member of the board and represent the district, you are now representing our entire population. And I think that makes a little bit of a shift, and it really means that yes, we have to come together, and it is a little bit about consensus building, and yes, hearing from the community, but also having to come together to make decisions on what is best for all, always in thinking about our students' best interests in mind. So that statement, a collective commitment of board members coming and working together toward a common vision and set of goals that prioritize the success of the school district and its students. In my opinion, that is exactly what a governance team does, represents, and means. And that's the beauty about it. And I feel so proud of the work we get to do together. All right, so this slide just talks a little about the election roadmap. So you are here this evening to learn a little bit more. Some of you are very tentative. You don't want to come out and say that you're absolutely running, and but I truly do. I encourage you. I hope you leave tonight with just a sense of purpose and reassurance, about what this is going to entail, and that every one of you here tonight will consider, running for this important role. July 8th, I know that's passed. That was last night. The county did offer a candidate seminar that has passed, but they will be posting that presentation on their website. So I will be including some links. President McNary actually had a chance to attend that. So, she can share a little bit more, when we have that opportunity tonight. But just wanted to put that out there that, really there's a lot of great information that you can access on their website. July 13th through August 7th, that is the official nomination window. So important for all of you to know that, yes, beginning July 13th, that window opens, and, that is Monday, right? It's a small window of time to really, make your mind up and, go ahead and be sure that you get your name in. So just want to be sure that, that is out there and you all know what timeline you're working with if you are going to, declare your candidacy. And then obviously we know November 3rd, right, is our general election day where our voters will, come forward and make those decisions. And we as a district have 3 trustee positions that are up, for election this coming year. Yes, go ahead, please.
With the nomination window goes till August 7th, but I think I recall this. You can't start campaigning for a certain time, right? Like
There are very strict rules which govern when you can campaign and in what forms. And if you're talking about like putting signs out, it's all available on the county elections website, because this nomination window is when you file your declaration of candidacy and finalize your paperwork for candidacy, so that your name can appear on the ballot, and then there'll be future.
Right. All of that is to say, like, if you're on the fence a little bit and then worried someone has to jump on you for 2 weeks or whatever, don't worry, they can't campaign anyway. So it all starts at the same time.
They can raise anyways.
What?
Yeah.
I love that. Great question and great information. Thank you both, from people who have lived through it, indeed. This slide just really talks a little bit about the trustee area system. It sounds like you're all very aware and you know what area you belong to. But we do have an interactive map that is on our website that, is really wonderful. Once you, click on that, you can actually just type in the address and it'll tell you directly exactly, which trustee area you are in. But really, as I said already, area 1, 3, and 5 are the 3 areas that are up for election with this upcoming term. As far as the candidate filing roadmap, again, very similar dates, July 13th, right? That's, the filing window opens. You have until August 7th to file your interest in candidacy. And then August 12th, really, there is an extension that is allowed, right? If you don't meet that August 7th, only if there is no incumbent who has filed or has indicated that they would be running. So there is a little bit of a timeline there as well. Lewis, I wonder if you wouldn't mind just clicking on that count County of Monterey Elections Department. I included this. This is really just the link to their website. And this is really where you'll be able to find and access all of the information that you maybe want to learn a little bit more about. It's got all of the forms that you need to fill out if you are interested in running. And this is also the website that you will actually find the presentation from last night's seminar as well. So just really wanted to be sure that you all have access to that. All right, the next slide, I thought it would just be helpful to talk a little bit about the core qualifications, so if what criteria do you need to follow if you are interested in running? Obviously, the first one being you have to be a registered voter, right, within the school district boundaries. That would be the first. Residency, you must reside within the specific trustee area. In this case, for this year, it is trustee area 1, 3, or 5. Employment restriction, you cannot be employed by the district, right, if you are going to run. Anyone who is currently employed would have to resign, prior to going in and running for one of those positions. Commitment, right? I think just, a desire to support student learning and advance the district's overall vision and mission. And then essentially legal capacity, right? You must obviously meet all of the state requirements to hold a public office under California law. Very plain and simple. A little bit about essential responsibilities, and I think this is where our trustees will talk a little bit more this evening. But to me, it really comes down to two key areas. Your two key main areas of focus and responsibility as a trustee would be fiscal stewardship, right? I think that's a really important component. Your role as a trustee is approving the multi-million-dollar budget, right, and ensuring long-term solvency. That's probably one of your most important responsibilities as a trustee, individually, but more importantly, collectively. And that's why a big part of what our meetings consist of throughout the year is about really talking about how we have budgeted, how we have assigned our resources, and ensuring that we are remaining within what those budgetary restrictions are. Being obviously in a position where we are not operating from a deficit is an important goal for us. And then policy development, right? I think that's the beauty about being in this position is you really truly have how you can make the biggest impact as a trustee is really your ability to ensure that policies are being carried out and adhered to. And when there is a need for policy in a new area, that is your ability as a trustee to come together as a governance team to really guide direction and put parameters in place whenever we see a need. We actually have a policy subcommittee. We have two trustees who serve on that policy, meet that committee. We meet 4 times a year, and a big part of what we do as part of that role is review all of our current policies. The California School Board Association, they will identify regularly 4 times a year policies that are in need of renewal. So we will always be, looking at those guidelines and, making the necessary adjustments. But very often as well, our trustees come forward with policies that are not on that list that really impact us locally that we may want to look at and make some adjustments to. And those are important decisions that we make. Just carrying on with that, I think, defining the role, I think an important component, when you're looking at the governance team and then, the operations, the what and the why is really how, I view the work that our trustees do. The responsibility of a trustee, you're setting district vision and goals. You are establishing structure and board policy, ensuring fiscal solvency and oversight. And yes, definitely, the evaluation and hiring of the superintendent, right? I think that's an important component. Not everyone knows that really as a trustee, your involvement and decision making isn't actually directly linked to the personnel, components. That is directly overseen by the superintendent. But as a trustee, you are directly responsible for the evaluation of the superintendent, myself, and the hiring of the superintendent. As far as the operations piece, that is more the how component, and that is managed by the superintendent, myself, in combination with our administrative staff and our teachers and collective staff. Anything along the lines of daily administration of schools, staffing and personnel management, and curriculum implementation is directly managed by me. But again, there's overlap, with that. I think very often there will be, you'll see curriculum adoptions come forward to the board. The board has to approve that, so it really is, there's, this constant, I think, finesse and balancing of those roles. And I love that particular Venn diagram. It's not as visible, on the screen there, but this is something the California School Board Association actually, includes in their training that they offer for new trustees. And I love that component of where you can see, the two roles overlap. And really, it's looking at strategic goals and success indicators. That's a big part as a goal for the board, is identifying what your board goals are and how they align with the district goals. But a big part of what you are involved in is identifying ways that we are managing, right, the work that we're doing. How do we measure that what we are doing is succeeding? And that's, I think, the exciting part of it and the rewarding part as well. And then really just operational expectations. I put down there, about, looking at on an average month, maybe 20 hours a month would be sort of what you should expect, as far as the time commitment. Obviously, there are going to be some months which are a little bit more, and it also depends on, I think, your level of involvement. I talked a little about the policy subcommittee. 2 of our trustees serve, on that committee. And so if you are serving on that, maybe it's going to be a little bit more, but that really is dependent on, your availability as well. We also, our goal is to want to, ensure that every one of our community members has that ability to be a part and run for a trustee position, whether you are a working community member or not. And so I think, we've been fortunate. I think even with the makeup of our board currently, we do have a makeup of working and non-working individuals. And I think, we're constantly looking at that ability to ensure that everyone has the ability to be able to participate, to the extent that is possible for them. But 20 hours a month, I would say, is pretty average. As far as the day in the life, I think, some of the bigger responsibilities that you would, need to know about is, we have 2 meetings a month, 1 regular and 1 special board meeting. So a big part of your responsibility is reviewing the agenda and preparing, for our board meetings, ensuring that you have reviewed the materials, that you're able to come prepared to ask questions, but also to, yes, make a knowledgeable decision, on what those contents are. We have a process in place where you receive the agenda in advance when it's posted on the Friday prior to the Thursday meeting. So you have, a good amount of time prior. I really encourage our trustees to, bring any questions that you have prior to that Thursday meeting, which gives us as a staff that ability to, prepare and give some of that information in advance of the meeting. But it also gives our staff a chance to also be prepared for questions that may come up, in real time. Let's see, service on district and, board subcommittees, right? I think our policy committee is one. We also have a facilities subcommittee and a budget subcommittee. Those are 3 that come to mind, that really there is an expectation that, our trustees, at least 2 trustees are serving, on those committees to represent the board. Attendance at site events and school celebrations. So, I think it's not expected that you're attending every single event, but, the more of our trustees that are visible and out in the community, I think the better, for our entire district. But definitely, being at some of our graduations and end of year promotions, that is definitely an expectation. And our community and our staff and our students, right, they truly appreciate, that attendance and that support that's received. And then definitely ongoing professional growth and governance training. I think as a new trustee coming onto the board, there are a lot of opportunities for training. We, do offer an orientation just amongst ourselves as a board that we provide. But the CSBA, California School Board Association, they actually put on annually a 3-day conference. And that is something that all districts from across the state of California attend. And so it's highly encouraged that new trustees, attend that. This year is actually going to be in San Diego. I just want to give the dates, for all of you to, be aware to be able to prepare, but it's December 3rd through 5th. Because it's San Diego, we would be, flying for that. Other areas are, San Francisco and Sacramento, which are a lot more local. But San Diego, we would definitely be, flying. There is a full day orientation for new trustees, which I attend with our new trustees together. But overall, above and beyond, we really I encourage all 5 trustees to attend, whether you're new or returning. It's a wonderful bonding opportunity together as a governance team. And I think, because of all the restrictions that revolve around, and that dictate how we can come together as a governance team, that is one of the few opportunities during the year that, I get to, be together with our 5 trustees there's learning that goes on. We're attending the conference, but, we also get a chance to really come together to get to know each other a little bit more personally, dinners in the evening and events that, we're able to come together on. So I definitely, want to put that out there for those of you interested in, making sure that is, awesome dates that you have on your calendars. In addition to that, 1-year annual training, we also, as a board, commit to actually doing governance trainings together. Sometimes those will be facilitated by ourselves, and other times we actually bring in a facilitator from the outside to help guide the work that we do there. But we aim for at least 3 to 4 times a year. So again, that's additional ongoing training and learning with a focus on, really talking about our shared purpose, but also the Brown Act rules. As you're learning a little bit, the Brown Act, governs a lot of what we do, and there are a lot of parameters and guidelines that are involved. And so it really is a lot of the learning that we do at that first initial, orientation, but then really throughout the year and throughout your tenure as a trustee is about, ensuring that we're all familiar with what those guidelines are. And then ethics training is a new training that is required for all trustees to really complete once during your 4-year term. And so that is something that's actually also included as an option, as part of that CSBA training when we do that conference in San Diego. So that's for a little bit of an overview of, what you, can expect. But at this time, I really would love to, be able to turn it over to our 3 trustees. You've shared a little bit, already, but I really thought, how great if you wanted to, just share with our audience this evening, what you found most surprising about the role as a trustee, the most rewarding aspects of board governance. And then, I think one of the biggest challenges, right, as a trustee, once you step into that role is balancing the feedback that you receive from the community, with the district goals and with your role as, you're not operating as an individual trustee once you step onto the board, being able to, function, as a team of 5. So I thought if the 3 of you wanted to maybe share a little bit on that, and then after that, we're going to just, reach out and open it up for questions as well. So any order you want to speak in, I'll leave it up to the 3 of you.
Dr. Shamas?
Well, I think the time commitment is something that I would want everyone to seriously look at your schedules and decide that you can give that kind of time, because, our meetings are the only time that we can do business. We just cannot do anything outside of a meeting. And so it does get a little tedious sometimes, but and we do have policy now that says if our meeting should end at 10 p.m. We have 1 extension, 1 only. And I was on the board previously when we put that in, because we had this poor woman coming from work, and our meetings were going till midnight, and she was ragged, and so pretty soon she's barking, and we're going like, oh, okay, we got to do this cannot go like this. So that's when we said, we agreed 10 o'clock. That's the cutoff time. And we give 1 time for an extension, because if you've been watching these meetings, it's easy to go beyond. So make sure that you are comfortable with the time commitment on meetings. The other thing I just want to bring up is once we get new trustees on the board, and you'll learn this if you were on our board, but it's a new board. And so we cannot just expect that whoever comes on just, goes with what we say. No, that's not a good way to be a functioning board. So we have last time when Mike and I were the newer ones, and so they were in the process of putting together their norms and for the board, how we're going to operate together. And that's such an important thing because that pulls the new people in and gives them the opportunity to feel comfortable with whatever the board has. Of course, we're going to show you what we have, but we're going to go over it all over again. And the new people will have the opportunity to give input. And that's an important piece. So just know that any new person coming on the board, even if it's just one person, that was one of the most important things I ever learned when I was in training was it's a new board. Don't think of it like we're the same board and we're just adding one person in. No, it's a whole new board. So that's an important piece of building camaraderie. And I'm all about consensus. And for me, consensus is when it doesn't mean that you all agree, but can we all live with a decision? Can we live with the decision? There's a difference. And to me, that's where you want to get to.
Thank you, Clerk Shamos. Trustee Wax, would you like to go or shall I while you're, okay. Most surprising thing about being on the board, I think the time commitment. And I think all of us up here sitting in this role take it very seriously. So, for myself to feel informed to make decisions, that requires me to be, like Dr. Adamson said, present at sites, present with her at site visits, just when she's walking the campuses, to hear what staff feedback is, to check and see like what's the vibe at the school right now. Is everybody putting their heads down, or are people saying thank you and hello? Like just being able to get a pulse on a regular basis, I feel like really helps keep me informed. But it's one of those things that you have to, that I take the time for, because I feel like it makes me informed to do my job as a trustee when I sit up here, because I have that experience and because I've had those conversations. I think also, having the policy committee and the budget subcommittee additional time commitments. And I think we're all here because we care deeply about our community. So just keeping that in mind, along with the time commitment, is a support system, whether that's in your home, or in your close circle, because you need people you can talk to about what's going on. And it cannot be anyone who sits on the dais with you, because that violates the Brown Act. Because it can be difficult to set up here when you're faced with difficult choices and hard topics and things that we all take very seriously and deeply, because we want to do the best for kids. I think what's also been surprising, though, is kind of what you said in line with our governance framework that we've established. It doesn't really sound like it directly relates to education, but it's kind of the foundation for which everything else is built. We went through the process as a board of developing a handbook with norms. And it basically lays out how all of us as board members will treat each other when things are going well and when they're not. So like Beth said, it's so healthy that we all come with our own perspectives and different opinions. And I love democracy. I think dissent is so healthy, but I also think we're going to have to continue to do business and to work together, because we all want to stay focused on the students. So to be able to do business and then come back and say, you know what, I know that wasn't personal about me, and my focus needs to remain on the next agenda item because this is important too. I think that governance framework has really given us those tools and kind of things to look back on when we do have difficult moments. And I think it also sets the tone for how we conduct ourselves as board members, sends a message to the entire district for how we want to model, how we want to represent our community, and how we want to be viewed as PGUSD. So I think keeping that in mind is really important, and having that governance framework has helped us get through some difficult topics, difficult discussions, and keep moving forward together. How to disagree and still work together. Yeah. So rewarding. I mean, this entire experience is rewarding. I'm kind of like Beth. I love this. My career before falling in love with the school board was I represented kids in child welfare court as an attorney. So I love the policy end of it. I've always been drawn towards kids and advocacy. And I feel just really passionate about the work we do. How to maintain the balance. I think keeping in mind if when you're wearing your hat as a board member and you really never get to take it off. For example, when you see someone in Trader Joe's and they want to tell you about something that's going on with them, you stop and listen. And you also remember you're receiving. You can't make any decisions. You can't make any promises. You can receive. You can maybe tell them the next person to go talk to, or you pass it along to Dr. Adamson. But kind of knowing the role of a board member and listening and taking in the feedback, I think that's where the balance is. And I think us always going back to what are our goals, you know? And trying to pause, because it's so easy when you hear something from a community member or a student or a staff member and you feel that, or it relates to you, where you connect with it, and taking the time to wait and process and like before giving anything back, I think has been like a really healthy tool that I've been learning. So, Trustee Wax.
All right. Well, I don't know if I'll hit up the three, the surprising, rewarding, and balance was the third. What was the third? Balance? Okay. Okay. Yes. So I agree with everything that the two other trustees said. But I'll just talk about my own experience a little bit. So I've been on almost almost 2 years, year and a half. And I think one of the more difficult parts for me, personally, is like, in a way, I have no sense of perspective if we're doing the right thing. Ultimately, I mean, we're making the best choices that we believe in and that are available to us. But I also know that if I was a community member not able to see all the information, or just kind of being on the outside, I would definitely disagree with some of the votes that we've made, and I would be, disgruntled at me. But so it's one of the tricky things with being in a small district where, or for me personally, it's like you're like, you don't know if you could see the first forest for the trees, or if you're on a treetop or whatever, because it kind of all gets muddied together. You are making decisions about people who have taught your kids, who are really qualified and loving and that sort of thing. And so it's hard to disassociate your personal self, and you can't, but we all are truly looking out for the best interest of the district. And I think I don't know if it's one of the more surprising things too, but I didn't really know anyone on the board before, but it is surprising or heartening where our shared goal of doing what's right for the kids. I've, in whatever disagreements, I've never felt like I've never questioned another trustee's dedication to the kids in the district. It's always come from the right place. So I think that I've mentioned this maybe in private, maybe in public too. I'm on another board and it's terrible. And I now know that because of this contrast, that like, uh, you know, as disgruntled as you might be sometimes with this district, uh, Dr. Adamson and the assistant superintendent and like the exec team are really, really good. And you might drive by here all the time, and her car is here way too often. Like everyone is really just highly qualified in this. Well, I won't say everyone, not to disparage anyone. I just don't want to make any absolute statements. The district is really full of so many quality people performing their job very professionally. And so it's really it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it feel good that everyone is on the same page, and you kind of don't have to worry about that part. Let's see from people. And then this doesn't fit into the things, but I also want to make it clear from my initial statement that you might get involved because you have kids in the district. That's obviously like why I got involved. But it's just to be clear, like if you want to make an impact on your child's exact experience, this is not that. Like, I mean, I would be disappointed in myself, I guess, if I tried to like wield power or whatever. I'm very happy when a person from the district doesn't know my name. Like, all right, I'm still here. And yeah, you are really fighting or working for the good of the district and not your individual child. That said, I'm on a third board, and that's the PTA at Forest Grove. And that board is great, but I am a terrible board member there. I tried to do my best here, but I am a terrible board member there. And I just want to say, like, if you decide to not run and involve PTA, can have such dramatic impact on our kids. And I feel like, unfortunately, at least at Forest Grove, I know it's like it's hard to get involvement. So I would really beg you to join the PTA, get involved with that, or tell your friends to, because it is really so impactful and they do such good work. And it is really a direct line to the classroom in a lot of instances. And I'm sure there are studies, but like involved PTAs just really increase district outcomes usually too. So in terms of balance, I don't know. And then rewarding, let's see, rewarding. I don't, again, because I would have disagreed with my own votes if I was in the public. I don't take negative comments personally or anything. I do take, or I don't take it personally, but seeing the emotions involved with people's lives we impact and that sort of thing is very affecting. That's not rewarding in a good way. It's just impactful and should be mentioned. But sometimes it feels terrible. I mean, sometimes it does feel terrible. But then right toward the end of the year, after these terrible decisions, is graduation and all these ceremonies with like little kids wearing these hilariously small gowns and hats up to the high school and everything in between. It really is rewarding, and it's like a palate cleanser for all the tough decisions that we made. And that it really is rewarding. I mean, education, like everything in the world is in flux. And we're all trying to do our best, and it's great to see like kids succeed, by and large in our district. So it's nice.
Want to say one? Yeah. Okay. I was just going to open it up for at this point questions. So if you just have one, just come on up to the microphone and answer it, and our trustees will respond.
Is 20 plus hours a reasonable estimate for the time commitment? That seems to be a theme that all three of you discussed. And the only quantification I saw of that was 20 plus. So more or less.
I'll start. So we have 2 board meetings a month. One board meeting is our regular board meeting, which is when we try to handle all of the substantive business we have for that month. I would say that board packet can vary anywhere between 200 to 1,000 pages. Depending on the meeting. Some of the items are routine. Some of them are not. We are responsible for every decision we make with regard to everything in that packet. So there's a time commitment when your packet is 1,000 pages and 300 of it is updates to policy and other, things that are impacting students in our district. So that alone, go ahead.
Well, if you're the president, you definitely are
True.
going to be giving more time. The clerk will come to agenda setting meetings too. Also, our superintendent likes to meet with each board member once a month for an hour. So that's something that it's really a very nice thing that she does. I always check with her, like, are you sure you want to do that? Yes, she still does want to do that. Okay, it's very nice because you do get one-on-one time with the superintendent because, even though we're talking about a lot of time, what you will find is that the kind of time maybe you want, like more of the discussion time with board members is so limited by the Brown Act that it can be frustrating. I mean, Jen was talking about, sharing with someone else. You can share with one person, so if something happened at a meeting that I was not okay with or I want to talk about, I could call one person and talk to them about it. But that's as far as it can go. Like that person can't call and talk about the same thing, and I can't call another person and talk about the same thing. So, we have those limitations. When we're in closed session, we do have the ability to talk, but then we're limited by what's on that closed session agenda. So it's not like you can say like, hey, last week, when you said that, what did you mean? Like we can't. So there is, some limitations that, you probably will find a little frustrating. But we do the best we can to, like when we set up these meetings for our governance. So even though it's an open meeting, generally people aren't interested. So it's a little more private, but it's still online and everything. But it does feel a little more like we have a chance to talk casually with each other and still following an agenda, but still what the governance team is doing as a team meeting is bringing up issues like, typical things we bring up is like, okay, how somebody responded to something, if that hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. You got to talk about it, So and you can't be afraid to talk about that. You have to clear the air if there's any little, hurt feelings. It's important to clear the air and resolve to move on from that, however it goes.
I will say, I think averaged out 20 hours is probably rightish. but the amount of hours per week, like in the thick of the school year, those hours are on the weekend because the time that the packet gets sent um is Thursday, Friday. I mean, you have until the next week, but really you're kind of cramming like in the weekend or the days before. So it's like a very compacted, concentrated time. And then just you went briefly over it, but the Brown Act is generally to like try and stop bad stuff happening in back rooms, which we can all agree with, but I feel has some real problems with its implementation. Just if you're curious and didn't know about that. And so while I have my problems with it, it is true and again, noteworthy, laudable. We all take those things very serious because the Brown Act is like a cudgel or like a weight just over you. So like you're terribly afraid of like going to jail for talking to two board members at once or something. So yeah, everyone really respects like the sanctity of things being in the closed session and that sort of thing. That's not related to the time commitment, just thought it's worth mentioning.
Also, just to help you feel a little bit better about the time, it's going to feel a lot in the beginning, but once you get your feet under you, you'll develop your own system of how you want to read through your packet and get things in order, and it gets better. So, I don't want to scare too many people, but you'll develop your own system.
I think another really valuable thing is if you haven't already, start tuning into meetings to see what our board meetings or PGUSD board meetings look like in action and see if that is of interest to you because I know as candidates, we have a lot of great ideas as individuals that we come in with. But once you get sworn in, you're part of a governance team and you can still have the things that are important to you, but you also have to function because we have to do the business of the district and we've been entrusted with taxpayer dollars to do that business. So to hold ourselves accountable, we have to stay focused. Yeah.
And again, if you have those ideas, PTA,
I mean,
in addition to this,
we all know education always needs more good people.
Yeah.
So, but I think tuning into one of our board meetings or even catching a city council meeting to watch how government business is conducted in action is a helpful tool because there is such a specific set of rules that governs what we can and cannot do. Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hello, Justin Rivera as a potential supporting family member. The time commitment was one of my key questions, and I'd like to quickly pare it back and just see if I'm hearing it correctly. Sounds like about 10 hours a month in meetings, 10 hours in prep work, statistically. And Ms. McNary, you mentioned site visits. I'd like to know a little more about that. Is that actually touring the school? Is like, what's going on with that part of the commitment?
That's optional. Dr. Adamson makes her weekly schedule available to us as trustees, so we know what she's up to, and included in that are always visits to different sites. She rotates through the different sites, so it's an open invitation for trustees to join her at a site, and that's something that I choose to do. So not required, but it's an option, and she keeps an open invitation for all of us as board members for that.
Fantastic. And just to clarify sites, we're just talking about the major schools around here, like Robert Down, Forest Grove, the high school, etc.
High school, middle school, adult school, transition program. Yeah.
Excellent. But
community high as well. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. What would you say is you mentioned certain weeks are a lot more concentrated, Trustee Wax. what would you say is the most amount of time you've had to put in 1 week?
I don't. The 20 hours was for,
That's an average, you said, per month.
yeah, I mean,
Or if you want to do if you want to go most per month, that's okay too. I'm just
no,
kind of
I mean,
curious.
uh, there are a lot of emails sometimes.
No, I would just say for you, since he hadn't been on the board before, and I didn't need as much catching up to do. But Mike really did have so he came to some special budget meetings where the assistant superintendent of business brought him up to speed. And so that might happen, but that's just in the beginning, and that doesn't necessarily add on to a regular time commitment. In the beginning, you're going to be looking at where do you need instruction and information from. And you're still, we're understanding, if you're working a regular job, we understand sometimes people are going to say, I can't make that site visit, or I can't go to that particular celebration, that's okay.
I think maybe the most per week was like 15 to 20, just because of like rabbit holes and emails and that sort of thing.
Fantastic. I promise I'm almost done. Where's the material posted when it does drop? Is that digitally posted or is it a physical packet you get?
Either one, actually. It's posted on the website, but some of us prefer digital packets. Some prefer physical, and they're left. There's a special safe for trustees only.
Fantastic. And pivoting away from the whole election, just speaking as a community member, you said something very interesting, Trustee Wax, about how you felt that certain community members would be upset with certain decisions that were made in the vote, but you looking at it still voted that way, which obviously you're voting your conscience and what you believe is right. I'm going to ask the question this way, but it's more of a longer term. Is there a better way to do things? Which is is it a lack of transparency? Is there something that's not able to be transparent? Is there a better way to communicate it to the community so that somebody like me who likes numbers and looking at things isn't going, wow, what a jerk. Why did he do that? So I can be on board and on the same page. You can answer it or not. I'll walk away.
Well, I think just like intrinsically for myself, I'm like, hey everyone, and add more services. And I'm not a numbers guy, or I wasn't. Now with Josh's tutorial, very numbers. So if I think of myself as a pre-school board me, and I hear about cuts and programs being taken away, I'd be like, that's ridiculous. I want the most for my community, and I think there would be I'm speaking for myself. There's just kind of a lack of understanding on my, when I just want more, and being in here has made me realize that sometimes I can't have more.
I appreciate it.
Well, I think too that if you just look at this last year, we had these difficult budget decisions to make. And what we were learning along the way was one of the forums didn't give as much transparency, so to speak, but information really. And then the superintendent said, okay, I'm going to do a more expansive discussion, and she had it at the high school, and it was really helpful. And people who were still upset about what we were going to cut were still saying, well, at least I get it. At least I understand why you're making this horrible, cut. But so, you can never communicate enough. I mean, but you're always trying to, but yeah.
So I think in one of Dr. Adamson's slides, she talked about the kind of the two major categories of policy versus budget. And I'll say just in my attendance over the last year plus, it strikes me as like 70% budget, 30% policy as a sort of rough general mix. I don't know if that's because of where I joined in the cycle or what, but I'd just be curious your sort of take on that. And also, have candidates publicly said that they're running again or not in the districts that are up for? Well, that was my other question.
I intend to file and run for trustee Area 5 to serve my zone again. So,
But then, yeah, Dr. Hazen is what?
Dr. Hazen, it's my understanding, and these are everyone's personal decisions. So until the filing period ends, we really don't know. So not speaking for them. Dr. Hazen, last he stated was a no. And trustee Otmar has stated publicly, possibly no, but I am absolutely not speaking for her. That's her call. So
In terms of the breakdown,
I was just going to say about the policy. That what happens is the state sends us mandated policies that we have to review and then incorporate. And so quarterly, right now, Jen and I were on the policy committee. So we would go to the committee meetings and review, this stack. But we also, it wasn't just us. So we had staff there, and the superintendent assigned different staff to different policies that they would implement anyway. So whether it's the director of curriculum or it's human resources. So we would have a general discussion, and it was helpful that way. But then because Jen and I had agreed to give that time, because I think we had the time we could give, and we like it. So then we bring it back to the board and we have it more succinct. And so the rest of the board doesn't have to go through all of that. So we try to, synthesize things so that they're doable and not, you don't get lost in it. But policy is really important. And the first thing I would tell anybody getting on the school board is like, know as much of the policy as you can, because that's what drives things. You're going to get sued. You're going to get sued because you're not following your policy. You've got to know at least enough of the policy, and you do rely on your staff. They got to know it too. But as a board member, there's certain policies that come up more than others. And, so you kind of want to get familiarized with that.
Anything else the three of you want to add, just based on things that we've talked about that you think we've missed? Oh, we have another question, please. Yes. Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. What happens if nobody runs with this new mapping? Trustee Jamal. Well, I mean,
I think we have to appoint.
Yeah.
We'd have to appoint someone. And
in the
trustee area.
Who lives in that area. And then my husband says, well, what if nobody comes forward in that area? I don't know. What we haven't encountered that.
Right.
But
yeah,
in the past, I've been on in the past boards that I was on, we had to appoint people, and we've always had a lot of people who wanted to serve through an appointment. And but that was when it was at large, just when you start carving up little PG, it's But I think if you get the word out a little more, that's kind of why we wanted to do this. Because we know that it's hard to, get the people from those little areas aware that, hey, if you live in this area, we need somebody from this area. So.
Okay. Well, thank you to the three of you for just giving such valuable, background and information. I just want to, I think, just reiterate, one important piece that, one of you mentioned it, but I think what's so important about how the board functions, to me, you look to a board and you can look to a board meeting and tell within 10 minutes, sort of how the functionality of that district. I think we can all speak to, in the last 5 years, how things have played out, at various districts across the state of California. And that's clearly, in some districts, that's a challenge. And what I'm so proud of, that was an important piece for me coming to this district, was it was important that I got to see how our board really worked together and how they treated one another. I always say how we treat each other, and that, starts and ends here at the dais, and yes, within the community itself. But, our students are watching, our staff is watching, our families. We are setting the tone for our entire district. And that's important. And so when we talk about those board norms and, talking about governance and a handbook that we put together that every trustee signs, and there's a commitment that we are going to commit to, these norms and commit to how we're going to treat one another and how we come to consensus and how we make decisions and how we discuss, and most importantly, how we disagree when those times are going to come. But that's such an important component, and it really does. The tone, everyone is looking to the board, right, for how, what we're agreeing to and how we treat one another within the district and what those standards and expectations are for our students. So I'm just so proud that, we do currently have, we've always had a board, and I anticipate that will continue, because we commit to, really developing those norms and those goals together. So just so grateful to our current board, and grateful to those of you who are wanting to, step up and run, because it is, it's a courageous, step, but you truly are, I can think of no better way that you're able to truly be able to give back to your community and ultimately give back to, your own children, right? So just so grateful that you, are here tonight. That last slide, we can just, pull it up briefly, but really it's just, a slide of various resources for you as, potential candidates that I wanted to just, have it in one place. A lot of them coming from, the Monterey, county source, for your, interest forms, your election, portal, the July 8th, seminar, as we said, keep checking that Monterey, county elections candidate site for the presentation, the boundary map. And then on one of the slides earlier, I had also included the board resources. So on our actual website, you can actually, locate the current handbook. You can locate our current board goals. And that's a really, valuable website. And I encourage you, if you really wanted to look a little and see what are our norms and what does our handbook state. It really is a very concise, book that, we've worked together on as a governance team that really dictates, what we, find as important, and really ultimately, sets those expectations, right? So yes, go ahead, Trustee Wax.
This deck itself will be posted on the website. PGUSD.
We will post it on the website, and then I will go ahead. I think I've got all of your email addresses. We'll, send the link to you as well directly. And I do encourage you, I think almost all of you, except for maybe one of you, have not filled out, the interest form. If you haven't, I encourage you, to do so. And we will really try to, now that we've got your information, really sort of reach out with, some reminders of as we receive any new information as well, we'll share that with all of you too. But yeah, if you think of other questions that come up, feel free to email, me, the board. I failed to introduce my executive assistant, Carrie O'Sullivan, who is just amazing. If you know her, you know, but she's amazing. And her email is there on that last slide. If you, have specific questions, she, will get back to you with anything that you need as well. Yep.
That
So,
reminds me though, we didn't talk about, but on the subject of time, one of our norms is, we get a lot of emails from people. The president is the only one that responds to it. So that kind of relieves everyone else. You don't have to respond to these. Like, we delegate the president to respond to the emails. That way you don't get confusing messages if one person says something and someone else says something a little different. So that's how we do that. And that does give everyone else a little bit of ease. You can read the emails, but you don't need to respond to them. And then the only other thing is, if you are going to go to the county elections office, I mean, it's an interesting place to find. Because it's in the middle, it's on Schilling, and it's in the middle of, right now, it's in the middle of the most active part of the produce companies that you're ever going to see. So it's a little weird to find, and I don't know why they stuck it out there, but you have to go there in person, right? I believe you cannot do it online.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to they want you to make an appointment as well before you go in and file for your candidacy. And they've got all the resources, everything from like a filing checklist to all the forms you have to file with the FPPC. I mean, there's campaign finance. I'll save it because they did such an excellent job and we file with them. So this is exactly what they want. And they answer questions and emails. Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, election staff is awesome. But
Wonderful. Yep. Thank you again and have a lovely evening and an end to your week. Thanks.
We're
Thanks
adjourned.
everyone.
Yeah, adjourned until August 13th, 2026. Okay. Thank you all.